Shabbat shalom to everyone. In the opening dramatic verses of this week's parasha, where we're left at a cliffhanger last week, and Yehuda is pleading before Yosef to not have to go home to his father Yaakov without Benjamin, the youngest of the children and the only left remaining, what's understood as the remaining left child of Rachel. And in Yehuda's plea, he says he can't go back to his father. And the verse he uses, which I always have loved this phrase, he says, V'nafsho kishura v'nafsho, because his life is bound up with his. Like they're so deeply connected that he can't go back without him, because it says, then he'll die. Soul is bound to soul. This week, actually, a while ago, the story was told that Staff Sergeant Yuval Shoham and Hirsch Goldberg Poland were childhood friends. They both lived in the Baka neighborhood in Yerushalayim, and their families attend the same minyan, the Hakel minyan. Evidently, when Yuval was serving in Gaza before Hirsch was executed in September, he would scream out Hirsch's name in Gaza, just as he was serving his duty, searching for his friend throughout the war. Nafsho kushura benafsho, because his soul was bound up with the other. Shoham was killed this week in an operational accident in Gaza. And at his funeral, his father Ephraim said the following, amongst many other things. I call on the Prime Minister. It's no secret that we don't see eye to eye, but here over my son's fresh grave, I demand of you in his name and in the name of so many others, make a deal. Our loved ones are fighting in Gaza so that the kidnapped will return. And to you, my beloved Yuval, I promise that we will walk the path we walked in the light. Your personal candle has unfortunately gone out, but your light will last forever. In the midst of unimaginable grief, Ephraim spoke his truth with so much clarity. The Rambam, in his work, 8 chapters, teaches that grief and anxiety and anger may cause the cessation of prophecy. He bases it on this week's parasha, in which Yaakov, upon hearing the news that Yosef was actually alive, the Torah states, Vatahi ruach Yaakov avihem, the spirit of Jacob, their father, revived. And the Targum reads the spirit as the spirit of prophecy. Once he knows that Yosef is still alive, he regains the ruach, the spirit, which is, according to the Targum, the spirit of prophecy. And Rambam says the sages moreover say the spirit of prophecy rests not upon the idle nor upon the sad, but upon the joyous. There is, however, another moment in this week's parasha that would presumably counteract this idea. And it's the moment when Yosef is unable to contain his emotions anymore about his brothers who are standing before him, Yehuda, who has said he will go in place of Benjamin. And no longer can Yosef hold back, and he asks everyone to leave, and he bursts into tears. And it says, Vayitin et kolo bevechi vayishma'u Mitzrayim vayishma beit Paro. His sobs were so loud that the Egyptians could hear, and so the news reached Pharaoh's palace. And the commentators actually say it wasn't about the house of Pharaoh's palace, it was just that his cries were heard all over the land. He cries the greatest of cries that are heard throughout the land, and when he encounters his brothers next, he reveals himself to them, and he tells them not to worry. God has sent me ahead of you to ensure your survival on earth and to save your lives in an extraordinary deliverance. He sees in this verse, and Danny's going to speak a little bit about this tomorrow, he sees his life in godly terms, some could say in prophetic terms. It is in his boundedness, his soul-to-soul connection to his brothers, in his heartbreak, in their heartbreak, in the grief for the past and what has been lost, in all the pain and all the hurt. And all of that is encompassed in the great wail of Yosef, his grief, which in no way seems to block his ability to create a larger picture of what was meant to be. Quite the opposite. It is that grief, that engine, that heartbreak, that wail that opens him up to something else. We are living in a time of profound grief. There is incredible loss of life, not just in Israel and in Gaza, in Ukraine. I mean, the list goes on. In New Orleans this week, I mean, the terror just is unending. And so much of it feels like our ruach, our spirit, could be taken away, just like what happened to Yaakov. It goes away. We're kotzer ruach. We're short of breath. We're short of spirit. And yet, it is in our very boundedness, kishura nafsho, kishura ba nafsho, in the boundedness of one human being to another, in the love, in the connectedness, in being penetrated by someone else's humanity and their pain, that could actually be the very engine that is the driver to have a vision, to feel compelled to make change, to scream for change, to scream for a cessation of the violence, for compassion for all peoples, for another human being. And this week, President Jimmy Carter died at 100. One could say a lot about his presidency that I'm not going to make an evaluation of here tonight. But one of the things he was most proudest of was his commitment to eradicating guinea worm, which is a parasite that was causing an inordinate amount of endless pain and suffering. And it was that sense of witness that he experienced when he went to visit in Africa that he decided, this is going to be my mission. He said that that sense of the pain and suffering that he saw imprinted itself upon his soul. His soul was bound up with the suffering that he saw with this parasite. And that's why the Carter Center actually devoted a huge amount of its resources to eradicating guinea worm, which has been significantly reduced because of his work, amongst many other things, of course, that he did. He said, Jimmy Carter, I have one life and one chance to make it count for something. My faith demands that I do whatever I can, wherever I am, whenever I can, for as long as I can, with whatever I have, to try to make a difference. As we enter this first Shabbat of 2025, we may not be able to stop all the grief and the pain that lies ahead. And some of us are anticipating a lot of grief and a lot of pain, particularly with the coming of the new administration. But we can most certainly be open to be connected, to be bound up with one another. Nafsho kishura benafsho. His soul was bound up to his soul. Our souls are bound up with one another. To be connected not only to our brothers and sisters whom we know and are proximate to, not only our people, the Jewish people, but all of humanity, including those who might seem other to us, like Palestinians or immigrants that we don't know, migrants who are living on our streets. And perhaps if we could see each other in our boundedness, we might let humanity's pain and grief imprint on our souls to give us the vision and the prodding to make a difference, to imagine a world that is a little more like Shabbat, a taste of the world to come. And maybe if we were more bound up with one another, there would be less grief. Ken Yiratzon, so may it be.